Yes, touch. You have to really careful to use this balsamic vinegar because its concentration is very strong. Like you see, it's very thick. Like you see, you don't have to put so much. Yes. Toss the olive oil. And the lemon. You can put the lemon. One lemon is enough. Salt. And pepper. Pepper. And when the oil is very hot, we land in the langoustine in the corner. We put this way because we wanted the langoustine to take the shape, because I want to show you the way we want to put on the plate. We're cooking.
The chef uses a ring mold for the pesto.
Only we cooking on one side to make it crispy. This the langoustine, they only take not too long to cook it. In other words, if you cook it so much, they get very mushy, and they destroy the flavor.
The langoustines are coated with vinaigrette.
We put a little bit of balsamic lemon vinaigrette. We want to do the presentation. With a little frisee. We finish the roasted langoustine with balsamic lemon, vinaigrette, and pesto.
Roxanne Skoko's cooking has been called fusion, which in turn has become a trop for food that can be almost anything. Her career is remarkable. No CIA, no grueling slavery in French kitchens. She just opened a restaurant and started cooking. From her namesake in Phoenix, she prepares confit duck salad.
The duck will be served warm, and it will be served with caramelized pecans, chow mein noodles, jicama, tricolored bell peppers, of course the shredded confit of duck, and some strawberries. So we're going to start by making the confit using the duck thigh. Here we have some duck fat. So first we're going to sear the duck.
The duck leg was dusted in a mixture of cardamom, nutmeg, cloves, thyme, dried ginger, and bay leaf.
The thing that I love most about confit of duck is that it's a wonderful way to get a very tender, moist meat falling off the bone. It's very flavorful. Okay, after we've seared it, then we're going to cover it in fat. That may seem really disgusting, but it's amazingly not a fatty dish. And then what happens is we're going to allow this to barely simmer. The fat should just, it should not boil at all. It should just barely simmer, and that's going to take several hours. Obviously, when you do this, you would do as a large quantity as you possibly can, and confit also is a way of preserving meat, so that's something that you can do and actually hold in the refrigerator as long as it's covered with fat, and it will be preserved for even up to a year. The finished duck is here. You can see it shrinks down pretty dramatically. So I'm just going to remove the meat from the bone and shred it. I like it shredded rather than cut. I just think it has a nicer, I don't know, it's just kind of a quirky sort of thing, maybe a nicer mouthfeel.
Incidentally, this is one of those dishes that can be served either as a first course or as main course, depending on the portions.
Meanwhile, I'm making the sauce. So to make the sauce, we first need to caramelize the sugar, which is what we're doing right here. We're going to take it to a nice deep amber color, and then we'll add the balsamic vinegar. And it will immediately tighten up. The sugar will seize up, and then we need to melt that down. We'll melt it down, and we'll reduce that by half. After we've done that, we'll add the fruit puree. And I've got strawberries, but any fruit in season, not any, but a fruit in season is certainly the most desirable. I've done this with nectarines, apricots, and it makes a lovely sauce. You can then go another step further and add some oil, a 1 to 3 ratio. So your base recipe will be, your base acid will be 1 part and 3 parts oil, and you should use a neutral flavored oil, not an olive oil or something like that. You should use a corn oil or a peanut oil.
The sugar is caramelized and the balsamic vinegar is added.
Yeah, be careful when you add it. It's splatter. And as you can see, the sugar has solidified, and we'll just need to melt that down.
The vinegar-sugar mixture is reduced. The strawberry puree is added. Then the mixture is pulsed in a food processor. Essentially, she's making a sweet and sour sauce.
Now we're going to make our salad, and I always start with the heaviest ingredients first, and so I'm going to add the duck. It's especially nice if you heat it up, say, on the grill. And I'm going to add the sauce to the bottom of the dish. And I do that for a specific reason, so that this is, nicely seasoned. I'm adding some julienne jicama, julienne red, yellow, and green bell peppers. These are caramelized pecans. And some strawberries to sort of create a bridge in the dish. And I like adding the chow mein noodles. They've been deep fried because then you have a nice crispy quality to the salad. And then lastly, I'm adding some baby sorrel, which has been grown here locally and is organic, of course, and some baby arugula. So you have that nice little bit of lemon coming through with the sorrel, and then the little peppery sort of spiciness with the arugula, which I think goes really nicely with the fruit. And this would make a very nice, say, summer luncheon.
Zoe's pastry shop is in Covington, Louisiana, on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain. The veteran owner-chef Shane Gorange offers marvelous pastry, which makes a trip from New Orleans across the world's longest bridge worth it. His dessert, learned from a German chef, is a country plum tart.
This is a German country plum tart. Right now we're going to make the dough. Just throw the dry ingredients. The butter.
Dry yeast is dissolved in a little water and lukewarm milk.
Pour it in.
Just like the midget home mixer, when a ball forms around the hook, the dough is removed.
Okay, when it's come together and we have a dough, we want to pull this out. Just push it together. I'm going to cover it.
Let the dough rest for 20 minutes.
What we're going to do with this dough that's not normally done with a yeasted dough is we're going to use the same process as puff pastry, but using sweet pastry instead of using butter. So once the dough is rested, flour the surface. We're going to roll out the dough. I'm going to take the sweet pastry, which is the same stuff you would use for your tarts, shells, and your pies, and we're just going to fold that into the dough. Then we're going to roll out a book fold. I'm going to grease the tray. Take some cake crumb. The plums have a lot of juices when they bake in the oven, so we need to absorb some of that. Then the seeds should come right out. If they have a problem getting the seeds out, then just take a spoon or a little Parisian scoop, and you're going to slice through the plums, not all the way. We want to cover the whole pan with the plums. We have this. We're going to sprinkle cinnamon sugar all over the top.
Bake at 375 for 40 minutes or until the plums exude their juice. Let rest before cutting.
We just take a slice. And the way I like to eat it is just with a little bit of cream on the side, maybe a little mint.
Welcome to Great Chefs, a culinary tour of the United States, featuring some of the country's finest chefs.
The opener this time is from Richard Grenemeyer in Tallahassee, Florida. It's a salmon fillet flavored with ginger and cilantro and wrapped in rice paper. Then from Scottsdale, Robert McGrath offers sugar and chili-cured venison chops with a warm salad containing wild boar bacon and Montana fingerling potatoes. Finally, from Las Vegas, J.J. Stith presents an interesting version of risotto, mixing the partially cooked rice with custard, then baking it, garnished with blood orange. The executive chef at Tallahassee's Governor's Club was at taping time Richard Grenemeyer. He grew up in his family's restaurant at Fire Island, New York, washing dishes at 12, cooking at 15, and running the restaurant at 24. Subsequently, he owned 6 restaurants. His salmon in rice paper. He begins with a trimmed salmon fillet.
You want to take the fillet and you want to cut it on a bias. For this dish, you don't want a real thick fillet, you want somewhat thin fillet. Spring roll wrappers or rice paper, they're very, very thin and very delicate. To do this dish, you really need to find an almost perfect one without holes. You may have to go through a few. You can find these in Oriental markets, and just soak the rice paper in some very warm water.
Chopped ginger and cilantro leaves will go into the packet.
Take the salmon fillet, sprinkle just a very little bit of salt. Fresh chopped ginger. Some nice pretty cilantro leaves. Once the rice paper is pliable, we'll lay it out. Again, be very careful, it's very delicate. Take our salmon. fit. Take a damp cloth, keep it covered while we make the sauce. Just a little bit of sesame oil, fresh tomatoes. Fresh ginger, I like a lot. Then we've got some Oriental sauces, a black bean garlic sauce, which is available in most Oriental markets, and I've seen it in a number of different grocery store chains that carry it in the gourmet food section. This is the black bean chili, garlic, and this is the chili, red chili sauce. Some fresh cilantro. And some fish stock. You can substitute chicken stock if necessary.
The salmon packet is seared in olive oil and sesame oil. It needs to be very hot.
Take your salmon fillet. Turn your heat down a little bit on the final cooking. While we're finishing the final cooking, add a little butter to finish the sauce. Garnish, we just use some nice fresh cilantro.
The Roaring Fork in Scottsdale, Arizona features the Western cuisine of Robert McGrath. He's serious about American Western food and has written a cookbook on the subject. His career started in Texas, but he's become a culinary force in Arizona. He presents a sugar chili cured venison chop.
We specialize or feature American Western cuisine, and this dish here typifies, again, utilization of a lot of products and the spirit of the dish embedded in the American West. So, we're going to go through the ingredients real quick and we'll get started. What we're going to do is a sugar and chili cured venison chop. So, we mix kosher salt, granulated sugar, and dark chili powder together and use this as the rub for the venison. Now, the ratios for this cure, you can adjust. Again, I reiterate, the quantities in my recipe for some of these things are adjustable. We want them, to be comfortable for your palate. So maybe you don't add as much salt as I state in the recipe, or maybe you don't add quite as much chili powder. I suggest you try this in the ratios I've suggested to begin with, and then if you don't like it, you can always make one that's a little better. But I think the flavors in this ratio will work very well. Now, this is a technique that was used quite a bit in more rustic times because of the lack of refrigeration. They actually cured their meats to act as a preservative. A lot of chefs are using this technique today, not just as a preservative, but more to enhance flavors, to really imprint flavors deeper into the meats or fowl that they're using as the center of their plate. We're going to let that just sit for a little bit and let those flavors take hold inside the venison. Now, we're using a venison that's from Texas, and very lean, very low fat. When you cook this, when we get to this, we don't really want to take this above a medium rare. So we also have to watch the curing time, and we don't let it cure too long that it takes too much of the juice out.
A vinaigrette is started with Dijon mustard and balsamic vinegar.
The recipes, you keep hearing this, but the recipes are suggestions. Maybe there's a vinaigrette that you use at home presently in your repertoire that you enjoy more. Feel free to utilize that.
Pureed chipotle chilies in adobo sauce.
That was a telephone. We have those in the American West. We use them time to time, particularly to get reservations for our guests. Typically, we don't use them on television shows, but we're flexible out here.
Finally, olive oil. Meanwhile, the venison chops are seared after removing any excess rub.
We're going to start the salad and the sauce. Now, the sauce, as I mentioned earlier, is simply some chicken stock and some of the shagbark hickory syrup. And we're just going to put that in there, and we're going to let that reduce for a little bit. Now we're going to add our red onions, our wild boar bacon. Now, you can substitute a cured ham for the wild boar bacon if it, again, is something that's not available in your particular market. You could use any kind of cured pork for that matter. You could use prosciutto if you prefer, or a country ham would also add a nice flavor. And we're going to add our leeks. Now our sauce over here has got to a nice roll. We're just going to let that simmer for a little bit. We're going to take our venison at this point, and we're going to turn it over. You can smell that cure. It's beautiful. And we're going to put that in the oven for about 3 or 4 minutes and let that finish in there. Now, these Montana fingerling potatoes have been blanched, which means they've been boiled lightly in some salted water before we use them here. You can also substitute Yukon Golds or new potatoes for this dish. These particular potatoes are very flavorful, organically grown, so they're very clean, as our other produce is. We're going to add a little cracked black pepper. I'll give you all a tip on black pepper. If you buy whole black peppercorns and toast them in the oven or on your stovetop until they become aromatic, you'll get a lot more flavor out of them, because the peppercorns are dried seed pods. All the resins and oils are inert in there. And to simply crack it, you're getting some of the flavor, but certainly not anywhere near all of it. So by heating those up, you get those oils and resins active, and it really increases and enhances the flavor.
The finished product is cooled slightly.
Now you want to check for seasoning again at this point, and you want to allow this just to cool off a little bit. Not a whole lot. And then we're going to add our vinaigrette. Again, just olive oil and vinegar will work if you don't really care for a little mustard in this. We think the mustard sort of gives it an interesting flavor that works well with the game, that being the wild boar bacon and the venison. And at this point in time, we're going to introduce the arugula into the salad. And we're going to toss it fairly quickly. We don't want the arugula to really wilt a lot, but we do want it to wilt slightly. And even though for the benefit of television, I'm doing this with a spoon, it's a heck of a lot easier and to get this combined thoroughly and quickly using your hand. So, since we're talking about it, we're going to do it. And we're going to take the salad, and we're going to just put it right in a little mound on the side of the plate. I'm going to take a couple pieces of the wild boar bacon and just top it off like so. Set that aside. We're going to take our venison chops and place them like so on the plate. We're leaning it against the salad to try and give it a little height. We don't want the plate to be completely flat. And we're going to take this reduction of our chicken stock and our shagbark hickory syrup, and we're just going to drizzle this over the meat. And here we have a dish of sugar and chili cured venison with a warm salad of Montana fingerlings, wild boar bacon, and arugula.
The pastry chef at Aqua in the Bellagio is J.J. Stith. She says that for her, cooking is a way of life. She seeks freshness and simplicity, and adds that she wants the customer to recognize apple pie for what it is. That may be tough with this, blood orange risotto and blood orange sorbet. The risotto cooking liquid is milk, a cinnamon stick, sugar, and the meat of 1 vanilla bean.
The milk is up, and dump in the zest to steep. About 10 to 15 minutes, put it aside. To cook the risotto, first I'm going to blanch it twice, bring the water up to a boil.
The rice is rinsed between blanchings.
Dump in the risotto. Then cover the risotto with the cooking liquid. And I'm going to cook it in a traditional risotto method. As soon as the liquid is absorbed, I'm going to add some more to it. This process takes, because it's in a double bowl, it takes about 2 hours, sometimes a little bit longer if you have a lot of rice. This is something you want to do a day ahead if you're going to be preparing this dish.
The custard that will ultimately be cooked with the risotto is started with egg yolks.
Usually just add in the sugar and the vanilla bean first. Whisk it together. And add a little of the milk and get it smooth first. Helps to break up the vanilla bean. And add the rest. I needed a bowl to strain into. Okay. And strain the custard. And add the chopped zest. I'm adding the last addition of the milk to the risotto. You want to cook it until it's 2/3 of the way done because it's going to be finished in the oven. To have a nice creamy texture.
The finished risotto will be put in another pan and refrigerated overnight. On the day of service, ramekins are mirrored with hot caramel.
I'm going to spiral the bottom of the molds with blood orange segments. It doesn't have to be a spiral. It could be any pattern. Spirals look nicer. Blood oranges are readily available in the United States, pretty much everywhere. If you don't have blood oranges, you could always use regular oranges, tangerines. You can use mandarin oranges, whatever you have, you know. Okay, after the risotto has been cooled, you're going to add the risotto custard to it. The rest of it. It's going to be a little bit loose. Then you're going to fill the molds. I'm cheating. Just a little bit of water in the bottom of the pan, just to keep them from over drying. And it's going to get baked in a 325-degree oven for about 40 minutes. Running my knife around the edge of the ramekin, inverting it. The sauce in the bowl, the mimosa sauce.
This is a mixture of caramelized sugar, cranberry puree, blood orange juice, and champagne. Creme anglaise.
The cranberry tuile, which is made with half tuile batter and half cranberry puree. A scoop of blood orange sorbet. And 2 sugar sticks.
Welcome to Great Chefs, a culinary tour of the United States, featuring some of the country's finest chefs.
The starter is prepared by Janos Wilder in Tucson. It's his rendition of chili relleno stuffed with a lobster cheese mixture with champagne sauce. From Minneapolis, Mark Haugen does a grilled chicken burrito with a wild rice mixture containing portobello mushroom, red bell pepper, and poblano peppers. Michael Jordan offers dessert at Las Vegas. He bakes an old-fashioned carrot cake with cream cheese frosting presented with a Grand Marnier anglaise sauce. Llanos Restaurant in Tucson is a serious site for Southwestern cuisine. Owner Chef Llanos Wilder's wife Rebecca's family is from Nogales, so Mexican specialties on the menu got there honestly. Llanos' cooking style is described as a blend of French and Southwest, like lobster relleno and champagne sauce.
First thing we need to do is to roast the chili. Now, as I said, this is the mildest chili you can have, but there's still some heat to it, and you want to expose the heat. There's a tough, sort of waxy membrane around the chili, and you want to remove that. There are several ways to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it with a blowtorch.
This is an Anaheim chili.
I can do it by hand. You want to use a very high heat to blister the chili. The purpose for the high heat is you don't want to cook the chili. You just want to blister the skin. The skin will come right off.
Meanwhile, Chef de Cuisine Mark Dow breaks down a cooked lobster for the filling.
So we're just taking the lobster tail meat for this. We're going to use the claw meat for a garnish. Then we're going to add to this some black beans, which we've cooked and rinsed. Some scallions, diced scallions. A little bit of chipotle, not too much. It provides great flavor, but a lot of heat too, and so we want to be careful with the balance on that. Queso blanco.
A Mexican goat cheese.
And the cream cheese. And we're just going to blend these together. Mark, could you grab the pepper mill for me, please? Thanks. Mark, you want to show them how to stuff this? So in the chili, show them the pod. We've taken out the seeds from the chili. Most of the heat is contained in the seeds. We want to remove those. And as we quickly cook that chili, it's really nice and meaty and fleshy. And we're going to really stuff it full with this lobster stuffing. And there you have it. We've made a really light beer batter here, and we're just going to lightly flour the relleno. The purpose of the flour is so that the batter will more easily adhere to the relleno. We don't want it thick and gloppy. It to be nice and light. So we're just going to brown that on all sides. Would you like to do that, Mark?
The beer batter contains a bottle of beer, a cup and a quarter of flour, 2 egg yolks, and 4 egg whites beaten and folded into the batter. More clarified butter is added. The chili is lightly browned, then finished in a 350-degree oven for 6 to 7 minutes.
The garnish on this is going to be a fennel salad. I'm going to take fennel bulb, which we're going to dice really fine, a little diced red onion, and then we made a little aioli or a mayonnaise out of the fennel itself. I'm going to toss all of these together. A little bit of salt.
Then the fennel-flavored aioli.
And just a little bit of lemon juice, a little tartness here.
The salad is packed into a piece of PVC.
This is a PVC tower that we use. We use it for a lot of different garnishes. To present the dish, we're going to lay the champagne sauce down on the plate.
The sauce is a reduction of champagne, lobster stock, and heavy cream.
Put our relleno on the sauce. Then put down our tower of the fennel salad. Remove the mold. Thank you. We'll garnish with a lobster claw, a little bit of fennel, and then we're going to put some dots of huitlacoche mojo. Huitlacoche is a fungus that grows on corn in Mexico, and we made a vinaigrette from it.
Tejas opened its doors in 1987 and was touted as being one of the first authentic Southwestern restaurants in the upper Midwest. In Minneapolis, it's way upper Midwest. People in that winter deep freeze immediately took to the cooking of partner chef Mark Haugen. His entree features a chicken burrito.
This dish is chicken and wild rice burrito. It's a flour tortilla filled with grilled chicken and wild rice mixture that's going to be rolled up and then baked, and then served with a grilled tomato salsa, or salsa roja as we call it at the restaurant. And the first thing this dish requires is wild rice. And wild rice, I'm just going to cook that in boiling water with some onion, give it some flavor. Takes about 25 minutes to a half an hour to cook. You want it to cook until the rice begins to open and it gets nice and tender. Okay. Well, we're not going to wait 25 minutes. I have the wild rice mixture with Asiago and jack cheese, roasted peppers, and some portobello mushrooms. And then I have some grilled chicken breasts, which I want to just slice, kind of fan it out, nice large slices. Cut it on the bias. And I've also got a mixture of butter with some orange zest that we're going to add to this. I have a tortilla. I'm going to lay the mixture out on that. Lay the wild rice. Spread it all the way to the edge. And then I want to just lay the chicken across that. I'm going to put a little bit of the butter. This will flavor it and also add some moisture to it. then I want to roll that up. I want to roll it up very tightly. Take the burrito and lay it out on a sheet pan. Brush it with a little bit of clarified butter.
The burrito goes into a 375-degree oven for 10 to 15 minutes.
We are making the salsa roja, and this consists of grilled onions and grilled tomatoes and grilled jalapenos. And the object of this is not really to cook the ingredients, it's just to get them nice and blackened, kind of get them smoky tasting. This works really well at home on a Weber grill, right over the charcoal. You got to have a very hot fire because you don't want, again, as I said, you don't want to cook the tomatoes. You just want them to be blackened.
A food processor is used.
And then I have some chipotle chilies, which are smoked and dried jalapenos that are then packed in a tomato sauce. And I want to put one of those. You could put more if you'd like. And then I want to also put some cilantro. I'm just going to kind of cut the larger leaves away from the main stem. You just kind of want to pulse it. And I want to season it with salt and pepper. And when you make this salsa, you could choose the ripest tomatoes that are available. Even ones that are on the verge of getting overripe are good. They're just even mushy tomatoes work for this. And some fresh lime juice. I want to let it I'm going to just let it sit for a couple of minutes. So right after I pull it out of the oven, and I'm just going to spoon the salsa onto the plate. And then to plate it, cut the end off. I'm going to set it up in a ring. Then let's put a little bit of cilantro in the center. And that's it.
Michael Jordan and his wife Wendy are chef owners of Rosemary's Restaurant in Las Vegas. They were not born into glitz. He comes from Iowa and she from Mississippi, but both had important career moves in New Orleans. She with Susan Spicer and he with Emeril Lagasse. Here is Michael's carrot cake.
We're going to do the cake first. We have some shredded carrot, some whole eggs, lemon juice, baking powder, baking soda, a little salt and cinnamon. We've got some peanut oil, sugar, and flour. The first step in making the carrot cake is we want to take the carrots and we want to combine it with the lemon juice. This will keep the nice orange color in the carrots as it's cooking so it doesn't discolor. And we just do that first. Dry into the bowl first. And we just put all the dry ingredients in. The baking powder. Baking soda. A little bit of the salt. And the cinnamon. On low speed, keep this on stir. You just want to combine all of these ingredients together well. And this also helps to, in a sense, sift the flour so we don't get any clumps. We just let that go for a minute. The oil. We're going to allow that to mix in very well. Turn this up a little. Basically get it so it's got a nice crumbly texture to it. We got 3 eggs. We want to add these one at a time. Allow each egg to incorporate fully. We want to just scrape down the sides. And add in our carrots. And you can do this in muffin tins if you'd like, or these hold about perfect 2 ounces. And we just go 2 ounces of batter to each one.
The molds are buttered and floured. Bake in the middle of a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes or until the edges pull away from the sides. Cool for 10 minutes on a cake rack.
All right, so next we'll do our classic cream cheese frosting. It's probably the simplest, but one of the best frostings that I love. It's just a simple, we have powdered sugar. Please be sure to sift your powdered sugar or your frosting is going to be lumpy. It's very important. Cream cheese, butter, and vanilla. Okay. First thing we want to do is we want to whip the cream cheese and the butter. And the butter's been sitting out at room temperature for at least an hour, hour and a half to get it nice and soft. And really that just speeds up the process. You could do it cold, but you're going to have to whip it for a lot longer. And when we first start, we're going to start off slow and easy.